Hello everybody, Ray Garner with Garner's Games, here to do a small painting demo on how to paint yellow. Now, there's a few different techniques on how some people paint yellow. Some will do a pink undercoat and then go back over with the yellow. Some will do a white base and do a contrast. Then there's the, now been dubbed the slap chop technique, where you do a black and then you do a white or a very light color layer brushing over top of it to leave the darkness in the crevices, and then go back over with a contrast. This last one I don't think really works very well with yellow, because I do think the black is too great of a differential when you're doing it. So I don't like that method for yellow. My method for yellow is a little bit different. As you can see today, we're going to be painting Marvel Crisis Protocol Wolverine. Wolverine's classic 90s costume is primarily yellow. I'm not going to do the entire miniature in this video. I am going to focus on just getting the yellow done. As you can see, on the box here, you can kind of tell that it looks like they used an underlayer combined with a darker yellow, then a higher light yellow, and then a really couple of bit of just edge highlighting of probably a white or a white yellow mix to get their effect. Now, we're not going to go quite that deep into it. We're going to go just to basic yellow, and how I do it, which is I use a dark base color, in this case Avalon Sunset will be my main undercoat. And then I will do a layer brushing, as I always refer to it, a dry brushing of Uriel yellow over top of it. Therefore, I leave the sunset underneath it, which is basically a mustard yellow. So you get a shadowing effect of the yellow without having to use shading, or without having to use, a black, I know some people will try to go known oil over yellow. I do think known oil over yellow dinges it out way too much, makes it way too dark. That's my personal preference. If I was going to go over with a yellow, I would probably go over with a yellow or an orange shade color, or maybe even go over it with a yellow contrast to where the yellow was still darkened underneath it. But that's just my personal preferences. Everybody's free to kind of paint how they want to. I will be using a small base brush for the initial yellowing, because, well, we're doing the base yellow color. Now, as you can see, you don't want to get too much on there. And I am going to get onto some of what's going to end up being black when it's all said and done. That is going to be very easy to fix, so I'm not going to even worry about it in this initial painting of it, because black goes over yellow extremely easily. Yellow is such a light color, though, you probably will have to do multiple layers to get, a good coverage of the black, so that the undercoat doesn't come through. I know some people may be asking, why I didn't go with a gray or something that's a little lighter shade, so it would be easier to get the yellow on there. And the simple reason for that is when I get to my other colors, I'm going to want that black undercoat. So since I'm going completely over the yellow area with a solid yellow, and probably doing double layering of it to get it the way I need it, I'm not going to need to worry about that. Now, many of you know I'm not thinning this paint at all. The reason for that is because I am doing a base coating, and I know, because yellow is such a thin color to start with, that it is not going to get the coverage I need if I start thinning it down too much. Get up here into the shoulder. On this model, you also may notice I did not go with the classic helmet. I've always liked it when Wolverine has his helmet taken off. So since it's a miniature that I'm going to be playing with personally, you know, I want his head showing. That allows me to put more detail into his head, you know, his facial expressions, things of that nature. For ease of painting, if I was going to try to make this a little bit quicker paint job, I would have left the helmet on, because that way all I do is paint his chin. A little stubborn area right here. And it doesn't really, one of the things I would say about Marvel Crisis Protocol is you're really encouraged to build your team. So, it really behooves you to kind of do whatever kind of modifications that you want to get the team that you want. My favorite Wolverine costume is the brown costume. I had debated actually trying to paint this up more in the classic brown costume from the 80s, because I'm a little bit older. That is my era when I got into the X-Men heavily. But I will admit that the uniform look of the 90s X-Men, while still maintaining individuality, is probably the best costume designing that the X-Men have ever had. And that, plus, I'm a big fan of the old cartoon. I am enjoying the crap out of the new one. Kind of wish we had a second season already. Of course, also wish seasons nowadays weren't so short, because by the time I get into something, the season's over, then I have to wait a year or two for the next season. At least we've gotten away from the dumping every episode so I can binge it in a single day and go, wow, that was amazing. I'm not sure how they're going to want to rewatch this now, because I don't have anything else to watch from it until they get around to making more. Now, Logan here has, basically just got the orange boxers. Everybody gripes about that on Superman. No one ever gripes about it on Logan. Of course, Superman's just mainly going to tell you that his mom made it for him, and leave it at that and not worry about it. Logan's rather get aggravated if you accuse him of wearing his underwear on the outside. And things tend to get stabbed when he gets aggravated. So maybe that's why no one gripes about it. One thing I did just note, this miniature doesn't really have a clear line on where the trunks begin and end on him. So that's a little bit disheartening. So I have to kind of guess on basically how close to a G-string is Logan wearing or not. Odd problem to have on a male character, but it happens. Now I'll do a similar effect when I get to the blue. I'll do a dark blue and then a lighter blue over top of it to get the same effect, but on the blue colors. I use this in my Ultramarines. I do the same with red on my Blood Angels. And I've done all of my superheroes this way. Alright. A little more in this very odd shaped boot that they came up with in the 80s, where basically it's got pull-up handles on the side, but no threads, no way to actually close the boot up on the front. It's a pretty odd design. Now you'll note on some of this that I did get some yellow on areas that are going to be blue, that are going to be black. Even got a little bit on the claws where I pull my brush back too quickly. On stuff like the claws, I will go back over that with a black to accomplish the metallic effect and not have the yellow interfere with that. Looks like I got a little bit of spot right here that needs a little darkening. There we go. We'll let this dry for a second and we'll be back to put the second layer on. And I'm back now to do the second layer. This is where we're going to go for a lot of the highlighting. I'm using a small layer brush, and I'm getting almost all the paint off the brush. So that when I go over it, I'm not getting into the crevices. And I'm leaving the muscle definition of the miniature. Now, and this is going to take, because it is yellow, it's going to take a couple of different coats to get this done. Get up here and get into the neck. Again, we're not worried about getting the color spread around too much. I want the other deals because we can go back and touch it up. And it's one of the things I try to tell people when they're first learning to paint. One of the biggest mistakes that some people make is that you can't get outside the line. They stress themselves out tremendously about getting paint where you don't want it. Like, I don't want yellow on the bottom of his chin. I don't want it into his whiskers. When I get through, there won't be there. You can already see the definition that's showing up in the miniatures. You're really kind of relying on the sculptor of the miniature to provide you with the details that you're looking for. I mean, there are techniques to basically hand paint muscles onto a miniature that doesn't have the definition that you want on it. They're a pain in the rear to utilize, to be completely fair. And you can see like that's going to be a solid black stripe when we get to it. But we're not worried about that at the moment. We roll around here to the back. And one of the things you want to kind of do is make sure that you are going with going against the grain of the muscle contour on the model, because you want to make sure that you're staying out of the crevices. As you can already see how much detail is on that chest. Still need another layer on the back to get it, and of course the legs. Just so you don't have to sit here and watch me the whole time, I'm going to pause it here and kind of get to the finished results real quick, and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. The yellow is now finished up. As you can see, it's a very simple technique. This is just two colors. You can go and add extras by doing some edge highlighting, going with another lighter shade of yellow on, like on the pecs and stuff like that to really make them stand out. But you can see how much detail this very simple technique allows you to have in the miniature. See a little spot where I had missed a little bit right there on that calf of yellow. I have to go back and touch that up a little bit. So you can tell Logan is going to look like he is going to kick some butt, which is what he's supposed to look like. Anyway, that to me is the simplest and best way to do yellow, especially on anything that's a comic book character. I could go back and also add in a yellow shading highlight just to make it a little more glossy, but I don't kind of like that glossy look. A lot of times I do that with leather. I will do a shade overcoat or a shading onto a main coat, and then I'll go back with that same basic color to kind of kill off too much gloss and let it be kind of oily looking on the inside. I do that on I did on Gambit's cape to get that effect. That's probably something a subject for another video. Anyway, tell me what you think about how I paint yellow. Tell me how you paint yellow. Anyway, this is Ray Garner. Enough said, bub.